Hello everyone, this is Alberto Aguirre from Sensofar, and I would like to show you today how to manage how to take acquisitions with the S-White, as well as how it's working the workflow for the analysis softwares and the different possibilities we have. So here in the back you have the S-White with the standard configuration of 6x6 and stage, 100 by 150 millimeters. The samples I'm working on is let's see myself. This is the standard which is coming with the system is two step heights. Okay. You can put them always in the middle. You see that now it's already focused. Remember that this white has a depth of focus of 40 millimeters, so the requirement of focusing the sample is not really needed. Okay, so it's very comfortable on that. So if you want to take an acquisition, you can do auto light, which is this button you have here on top, and you can click acquire. We have 3 seconds of acquisition, and here we have the report. So we have, as always, you have the contour view, you have the 3D view in the middle. You can level that. You can go to move a form. You can remove a form, for example, in this area. Okay. And if you want to have the step height, it will be super easy. You can select an horizontal profile. Then you can take the average. You select step height, and system automatically is going to you which is the average step height of this area. Okay. This is because we find that very easily. We have a possibility to take an overview of the sample. For example, taking more than 100 millimeters overview. The system is taking 20 images. Much, but okay. So basically, we have covered almost the whole travel range of the stage. Okay. So now we can navigate. So for example, now it will be much easier to move from here to here, or even if we want to cover all the step height at the same time, we just can click and drag, and we can do any stitching. Okay, that's super easy. Well, let's try to make a single step height. So we already saw how to measure on a step height, but imagine that you want to automate this height. You have always the same samples, and you only want to put the sample and measure the 2 step height at the same time, and to get a full report of that. Okay, so I have prepared that recipe. Okay, so that will be the idea. So you go here, you select recipe 1, click accept, click acquire. You see that the system is going to the first fiducial, and it's going to the second one. They select these corners as fiducials. It's recentering the locations. It's measuring the first one. Moving to the second location. Okay, and finally it's coming up these windows, which is telling us that we measured 2 step heights and the mean value. Okay, that was 2.4 millimeters and 2.5 millimeters, and one of them was spaced, and one passed the tolerances, another one failed. So I set up tolerances between 2.4 millimeters and 2.5 millimeters. So the second one was out. Okay. So you see that there is no interaction of any operator at all. So you just load the recipe, you put the sample, and the system is correcting any deviation from the position of that sample, and it's measuring the 2 step heights. Well, now the question is how you prepare that. Okay, how easy is that? Complicated? Do we need to program that? So we exit from that menu. So the first thing is to define a single multiple recipe. Okay. So let's try to measure. So we measure it. We have a step height. Say, well, that works. So it's working. So we can save let me save this measurement. I will set that desktop sample 1. Okay, save that. I can go to SensoPRO. Okay, so I can load that sample to the measurement. Here we have. Then we have a long set of plugins, but we'll select only step height. And if I open the parameters and tolerances, we have what we want to measure. And already here this is the all tolerances I set up. Of course, you can modify that. You can put it, make it more 200 more tight. Okay. So I analyze and say, oh, this is out. Okay, so you get the warning. But you don't want to see that. You only really need a step height. I mean the CSV file. So you can save this single multiple recipe. I will say that as step height 2. Okay. And now, if we go, we can close SensoPRO. We don't need that anymore. But here in the single multiple recipe, instead of using SensoView for the regular analysis, we'll use SensoPRO. So this is connected to SensoPRO. Here we select our recipe, step height 2. And we save it. We save this single multiple recipe as test 1. Okay. But we want to go to 2 locations, so we need to program that. So we will go to new multiple measurement recipe. Enable that test 1, and we have different options to introduce the locations where you want the system is going to measure. So you can select a grid, which is you set up the number of columns, the number of rows, and the delta between them. You can introduce a file, the TXT file with all the locations. Imagine you have a wafer and you have 5,000 locations. So manually or with a grid is difficult. So a file will be very nice, right? Because you can these positions will be linked to a reference, okay, to the fiducial. So we can do that also. But in this case, I will use user selected. We only have 2 locations, and I will select, for example, this location here will be my first one, and here is my step height 2. I will select my second one, and then in every location, I will select all that test 1. I will use test 1 in both locations. Then finally, I have to set up the reference because if I move the sample out and I put again, or I select another one, it will be on the same location. So I will use reference, automatic recognition, and then I will go to this corner. Okay. And in this sample, I don't have a fiducial, but I can use this corner, this image. This is unique in the sample. Even I can use a wider square. Select this is my first location, and now I go to the second one. Okay, here we have the second location. So, well, we have everything. So, what I can do? Let me take the sample out. Put it again. Repeat exactly the same location. Now I click Acquire. Just moving to the first one. Taking the first topography. I was taking the second topography. Doing the analysis. Okay, and now you can explore the measurements. You can open the file, and here you have pass and fail. Okay, who was in, who was out. All right. So you say, okay, that's very simple. It's a step high. But what about more complex analysis, right? So we stop working with SensoView. Let me open SensoPRO. Let me see what. Okay, we can already open this screen. So unlock it from the software. So what other option we have? Imagine you want to measure a hole. So let me open desktop documents, SensoPRO, single hole. That's it. Single hole. Imagine you have some settings for which is from thresholding to look for the kind of hole you want to quantify. For example, the maximum depth we can set to 200 microns. And if we open the number of parameters that we can quantify of this hole, you see that it's quite a lot. Okay, you can measure the roundness, the roughness of the top, on the roughness of the bottom, the maximum depth. So top diameter on the bottom, a lot of them. And for each of them, you can introduce a tolerance. I don't know, 20 and 25. I don't know. I click analyze, and the system is telling me, hey, this one, the top diameter was 87. That was really out. This for one. Imagine you have 3, 4, 12. Okay, the plugin is also working for that. So these plugins are quite smart. So we have all this number of holes. You see that they are not really holes because this is out of the field of view, but we can try to apply the same settings. You see that it's working quite well. Again, it's out because in this case it's 103. Okay, so it's also quite a wider hole. We have other ones. So we have also paths. This like it a lot. So the customer was asking us to measure all these individual connectors we have here, to find them and to quantify them. So here we have all the distances, we have the dimensions, the lateral and the height dimensions. Well, you can set up the tolerances, you click acquire, and then it's finding that to you. Okay, even you have some kind of graph here, our statistical analysis of how that works. We have many other ones: dimples, bumps, laser cuts, many others. So SensoPRO is coming always with the step height and the surface texture or profile texture, but then we have the other ones which are extra plugins, okay, depending on your application, but you can get or you don't get it. Right. So I hope you like it, and if you have any questions, please contact me, and I will be happy to show that to you. Right. Thank you.